So what's good, Straw Gang, and welcome back to another video. Now, as you guys can tell by the title and thumbnail, I'm going to be ranking the top Warzone meta weapons from Season 1 to the current meta in the game, which is here in Season 5. Now, there was actually some nerfs to the EM2, the Krieg, and the C58, but I haven't tried those out. I'm kind of figuring that those nerfs to the weapons weren't enough to just kick them out of the meta, and so I haven't played with those guns, you know, in their current state. So I'm going to be ranking specifically the EM2, Krieg, and C58 off of, you know, when I last used them, which was only a couple days ago. But anyway, man, I'm here with the tier list, so let's take a look at the rankings that I have for these guns. So we've got the top of the most overpowered, just broken, overshadowing weapons at S tier. Then we've got F tier is going to be like the meta weapons but balanced. So obviously F is like the lowest ranking you could get, but these are meta weapons, so they're not bad at all. It's just the most balanced and fair weapons that are still like the best in their category. So I'd say for the LC10, it's like the very top of F, bottom of B. This is a gun that, you know, you're not going to be worried about if someone's using, because you've got weapons like, you know, the Mac 10 or the Cold War MP5, the Modern Warfare MP5, the Bullfrog. You know, there's a good selection of weapons that can compete with the LC10, but it's a low recoil, easy weapon to use. You don't have to be any type of good skill level, so you get what I mean. Now, to start this off hot, we're going to be kicking it off with the DMR, alright? Now, the DMR was a gun that if you played Warzone during this time, you didn't want to be. Like, you blink and you fucking die, man. This thing was like a 4-5 shot at range. It could compete with snipers. There was no assault rifle that I remember you could use that would be a good competition for the DMR. It was unreal, unbelievably strong. So you could pretty much just say S tier is you didn't want to be playing, alright? So S tier, didn't want to be playing. Now, to just get these S tier weapons out of the way, we're going to be having the DMR, the AUG, as well as the M16. These two burst weapons in Warzone were absolute hell. I do know that the AUG was always just that little bit step ahead, you know, against the M16. I do remember being 3-bursted and 3-bursting people with the AUG, man. It took a while for this gun to properly be balanced and have a good amount of recoil added to it, and it did slowly fade out. The placings of these guns are also going to be their ranking for which tier they're in, so I would say it goes DMR, AUG, M16. Alright, I'm back. I kind of scuffed the images up, as you can see here, but anyway, I added 2 extra ones for this S tier. Didn't want to be playing. Now, the next one is going to be the .357 Snakeshots. Now, if you guys did not play when this was the close range, like SMG type of meta, basically you had dual magnums that were like shotguns. Like, there were snake shot rounds of like pow, 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 pow. They were like mini ranges in a way. Unbelievably broken, and they had range too. Like, there was probably about six shots in each pistol, and you could completely wipe a squad with these. It was unbelievable how broken these were. That's a pretty good ranking for them. Maybe that, or maybe like that, I guess. Yeah, they're interchangeable, but making sure I have all of them, I think I have to add one. But the next one, without a doubt, is the Origin 12. I don't know where these sit. Yeah, they were very, very close, but this thing was most definitely a dominant close range slash secondary, you know, support weapon. Like, having the Origin 12 with sleight of hand, you know, was it like a 12-round mag or something? And just, dude, I cannot even explain how broken this gun was, especially when the Origin was floor loot. If you guys played Warzone when this gun was floor loot, there was no point in having anything else. Like, it was one of the most frustrating metas or ground loot weapons we've ever had, just because of how broken and unfair it was compared to the other floor loot weapons. Okay, so the next screenshot I just added for the S tier that I feel like a lot of you guys are going to heavily agree with was the R9 Dragon's Breath, aka the Doof Doof gun. Okay, the Doof Doof, the R9 Dragon's Breath shotgun was probably one of the most annoying guns that I have ever experienced seeing in Warzone. Like, it was so frustrating to die to. Like, all of these were, you know, don't get me wrong, all of these guns were so annoying to die to, but when you have a fire shotgun, you had no chance against this thing whatsoever. Like, the other guns, yeah, I'd say pretty much just the same, but I'm actually going to move this up to the 3rd spot. Absolutely, there's no way that any of these are more annoying than this shotgun. I don't have any other words for it. Okay, so let's get on to some guns that aren't as OP, but, you know, were still meta weapons. So like I said, that's not the LC10. Let's go into the LC10. This was definitely is still a top meta weapon. It's an easy weapon to use, low recoil, good fire rate, very, what's the word? Consistent and reliable. It's a very good SMG. Next up here, we're going to be looking at the MAC-10. Now, remember, these are the weapons when they were in their peak. They're absolute most overpowered. It's not current, it's what they used to be. So now this is going to go up to the 4th spot. The MAC-10 in its peak for the meta was one of the most broken SMGs in the game. It had range like almost like an AR. It had like medium to somewhat long range, absolutely zero recoil. It was such a dominant, strong SMG that there was pretty much nothing else that you could use. Now, something like A tier, I would say, is the Bruin. The Bruin is an LMG that has a 60 round mag option, so it works like an assault rifle, but it hits like a train, man. This thing in its prime was, you know, mono suppressor, the longest barrel, I think it's XRK Summit, tac laser, 60 round mag, and the VLK optic. You did not need an underbarrel for this gun. It had zero recoil, it melted so quickly, but there was still room for something like a Kilo or an M4 or a Grau. And speaking of those guns, I'm going to put them in the game as well, in the tier list as well. So I would say kicking off with the M4 definitely goes ahead of the LC10. But it stays in B because it was a top most popular weapon in its prime, but it wasn't broken. It wasn't like actually something like the Bruin or any of these up here. It was a well-balanced assault rifle, low recoil of course. But I'd say if anything, it sits at the bottom of A, top of B. I don't really know where to put it. I guess I could put it bottom of A. It wasn't that OP or broken. And then same goes with these two. Let's get these out of the way. I'm going to say Kilo, Grau, and M4. These are all personal preference. You know, if you were a Kilo guy, if you were a Grau guy, or an M4 guy, those are all interchangeable depending on what you prefer. But for me, it definitely goes M4, Kilo, and Grau. To this day, I still don't care about the Grau that much, and I never really did. Next up is going to be the AMAX. Now, I'm going to put the AMAX above all of these because I use this a lot. Okay, I've been playing Warzone since the very day that it came out. And I can confidently say, in my opinion, that I had more fun using the AMAX. It was a better assault rifle. It still required a bit of accuracy. You know, I definitely had to adjust to the recoil pattern. I had to learn how to use it. It had a bit of skill to it. That's a meta that I really don't agree on being nerfed and pushed out of the game, even though it was a top gun. I feel like other assault rifles that couldn't compete with it should have just been brought up so people who enjoy using the AMAX could have still used it, and then people that wanted to use other guns could use them because they could compete with the AMAX. Like, this wasn't something I thought was stupid OP, so I'm actually going to put it here. I gotta remember, this meta wasn't stupid OP, it required a bit of skill, so I'd say it's like a BF actually now that I'm thinking about it. I gotta remember the criteria is how OP they were, but all these three, zero recoil, easy guns to use. The easier that they are to use and the better they are, obviously, the more OP that meta is. So I'd say this actually goes at F. I'm trying to figure things out as I go because I've never done one of these before. The next one is going to be the C58. The C58, I would say, goes in A tier, at the top of A tier. It's not overpowering, it's not stupidly broken, because now that I've got these up here, you guys know what bar we're setting for S tier. And I don't think any of these guns are going to go in S tier. I'm pretty sure this is S tier solidifier. So A tier is going to be, well, the C58 is going to be in A tier for a couple reasons. Now, obviously, this has been nerfed. I haven't used it in its current nerf. This gun, man, is like a slow firing, low recoil, heavy hitting, easy to use gun. I'd say, does it go? It's debatable whether it goes above or below the Bruin. I don't really know. I feel like more people are using the C58 than the Bruin though, because you had to actually unlock the Bruin. I don't know if you did with the C58. I think that was a battle pass weapon, so more people have access to it. It is an assault rifle. Even though the Bruin had that 60 round mag, this gun is a lot better for mobility, the ADS speed, everything like that. The Bruin was a whole ass LMG, remember. Just because it had the 60 round mag, it's still a whole ass LMG. A heavy, sluggish LMG. The C58 is an actual assault rifle. ADS is faster, the mobility is faster as well. Next up, we're going to have the EM2. Now, I've, like, ever since I was properly using this gun, it's only been out for like a week or so, but from when I probably got to use the EM2, it's literally just a C58 on crack. Like, it literally is a C58 on crack. This thing, along with the other nerfs, did get hit with, I think, a recoil increase. I'm not too sure. I know the C58 got a recoil increase, but the C58 and the EM2 is like night and day. Like, it's so obvious which one is better when you really get to use them. Next up, we're going to hit some SMGs. I'm going to put the Bullfrog. I'm going to put it next to the LC10. I think the Bullfrog and LC10 are two very easily or very comparable SMGs. Absolutely no recoil on either of them. Good damage, good fire rate. I think the LC10 may have a higher fire rate than the Bullfrog. But for me personally, I am going to put this above the LC10 if I can. Fucking hell, let me put it above the LC10. The Bullfrog has been my #1 go-to SMG for Rebirth. I like to, split off from my team and try and solo quad. This gun having an 85 round mag, high fire rate or moderate fire rate, no recoil, good ADS speed and mobility. It is a very good SMG. So I would say, does it go in A? It goes at the very, very bottom of A, because out of these two guns, I still feel like I'm more confident with gunfights with the Bullfrog. One more weapon that I just saw is the FFAR. Now, if I had to put this in S tier because it was so overly dominant, like, if we really think about it, it's an assault rifle that was outgunning, overshadowing, overpowering SMGs. An assault rifle that overpowered SMGs. So I don't think it was more of an issue than... Actually, no, I'd say these two. These two are fair enough to put together. And then I'd say MAC-10 FFAR, just because of the fact that the MAC-10 actually had more long-range potential than the FFAR. That gun will never be long-range, but the MAC-10 in its absolute peak had range, like AR, medium, almost long-range range. But I think that's fair enough to go there. Now I also have to put... Fuck, I forgot to rank these. So these go together. These definitely go together, and I'd say... what was more OP? I'd say the fact that the MAC-10 had actual range to it as an SMG goes ahead of the Snakeshots, but the Snakeshots also had a bit of range as well. So yeah, a lot of these are just personal preference. It's like give or take a few things, Next up, we're going to do the Modern Warfare MP5. Now, in terms of its overpoweredness, it's not overpowered. It's a very well balanced weapon. Shit, where do I put this? I'd say it goes up there with the M4. The M4 in the Modern Warfare MP5 in the earlier days of Warzone was like a dynamic duo, bro. It was always these weapons. Always these weapons. It's a very well balanced weapon. It hasn't got a lot of recoil, good damage, good mobility. Obviously with the Modern Warfare weapons, you can put no stock on them and that pretty much turns them into a very fast mobility weapon, quick ADS, everything like that. Next up is the FARA. I would put this, I think I'd put it at the bottom of A, because even though it's definitely a dominant gun, I just don't think it's kind of hard to rank some of these weapons. Let me think about this tier, this ranking here. Okay, I'm gonna put this in around the middle-ish of A, because with the Modern Warfare MP5, obviously it's an SMG. The FARA works perfectly as a long-range weapon, as a medium and close range. You can have, like, what everyone did before the barrels got buffed is use the FARA as a medium range weapon, use the iron sights or like a microflex LED and build it as like an SMG medium range weapon. And then once the barrels got buffed, things like the XM4, the Cold War AK, a lot more weapons were viable at long range, including the FARA, and I would say that it fits that, maybe even, I think, probably even better than the M4. That's personal preference there as well, because the FARA, I'd say, has a higher fire rate than the M4, just going off of, like, just guessing and what guns I've used. Next up is the Krieg. Same thing goes. I like the Krieg more than the FARA. I think it's just more of a consistently good weapon. It just feels like it has more damage and just overall performs better. And then last but not least, we've got the Cold War MP5. Now, I'm going to put this with the AMAX for one main reason, and that's because every time I've made a video on this gun, people have commented that, it has unnecessary recoil. The performance of the gun can be kind of replicated with the Modern Warfare MP5 and can be matched with other guns like the LC10, the Bullfrog, the MAC-10. These are a lot of good options besides the Cold War MP5, but it is still, yet again, it's still a meta weapon. If you get used to the recoil pattern and the overall performance of the gun and you really master it, it is like up here. For me personally, it would probably be bottom of A, top of B. I'd say F. Yeah, it sits perfectly at F, and that's pretty much my tier list. Now, I feel like this is a pretty fair list here. You know, we've got the most OP dominant weapons. Let me know down in the comment section if you made it to this point, what you would switch around. So let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want me to do another tier list, make sure you don't forget to leave a like. I'd appreciate that. Drop a comment down below as well, showing your support. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a great day, everybody, and I'm out.